guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa, for those of you guys who don't know me or just forgot about me because I haven't been here in a while. But I am finally uploading for the first time in months. So because I kind of am jumping back into all this, I kind of want to start off a little slow, something a little natural. So I decided to come up with this look. This is usually like my go-to summer glowy, still full, somewhat face beat. Obviously gotta have that glow. But yeah, I just wanted to do something really simple, really easy for you guys. In the next couple videos, I'll probably have something a little bit more dramatic. I'll do some cut creases for you guys, some more dramatic stuff. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I'll leave it down below for you guys, so that way you guys can see what I normally do. I'm more of the dramatic kind of girl, but as you can see, I can definitely tone it down. I can definitely do some natural stuff. This is usually what I like to throw on when I'm just going around doing some shopping, errands, you name it, on my day off. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and if you guys like it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next couple videos. So stay tuned if you guys want to know how to get this look, because obviously you're here for this reason. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, so I already have my eyebrows on just because it takes me an eternity and a half to do my brows. Alright, so now we can move on to the eyes. So for today I'm using, and for always, I'm using the Urban Decay, the eyeshadow primer potion. This is in the color Eden, so it kind of has like a foundation tint to it. So it will help cancel out like any redness or any veins in your eyes. And I find out of all of the ones that they made for the primer potions, this is the best one. I feel like it definitely keeps my eyeshadow intact and doesn't crease on me throughout the whole day, even like top humidity. So this is probably the best eye primer potion, or primer, that is on the market. So always set your primer with a powder if it still feels a little tacky at the end. So I just like to apply it like all over my eye, and I'm going to be blending that from the bottom of my lash line all the way up to my brow bone. And you can use your finger or you can use a brush for this. I typically just use my finger at home. I just like to get the whole area covered, and just make sure that everything is even. There's no little blotches. So then I'm just going to go with the Sephora, the Pro Foundation brush number 47, and some RCMA no color powder. You can use an eyeshadow to do this, or a foundation powder, or a translucent powder, whatever you feel, as long as it's a powder and as long as it's going to set the eye primer down. Alright, so now that both eyes are primed and set, now we can go in with some eyeshadow. I'm not going to do anything too bold or too drastic today, just because this is going to be my nice summer glowy, dewy, natural look. So I'm actually going to be dipping into this Morphe blush palette. This is the 9N. And I'm going to be dipping into the first two shades right over here. So I'm going to start off with that lighter pink right over here, and then just build up my crease with this darker shade. So to do that, I'm just going to use a Morphe M573 brush. I'm just going to dip the tip of my brush in, and then just tap off the excess. And then where you feel like this little bone around your eye, your little socket, this is where you want to focus the transition color or your crease color. You want to go a little bit above the bone, so that way when your eyes open up, you can kind of still see like some of that light pink or like the light eyeshadow color kind of peeking through. And I'm just going to do some windshield wiper motions, and then some circular motions just to blend everything nicely. And I usually use like the windshield wiper motion to kind of push the product towards the inner corner, and then the circular motions to kind of blend the shadow in an upward and downward motion, so that way there's a good area covering. And when I first deposit the product or the eyeshadow, I usually like to start in this corner right over here, because this is where you want that most pigment, the most focus on your eyeshadow, and then you kind of want this to start fading towards the inner corner. I don't typically like to go all the way into the inner corner when I do soft looks like this, only when I do dramatic looks, but since this is more of a soft look, I'm going to pack on most of the product right over here, and then just start fading it towards the inner corner, like right here. You want to use a very, very light hand when you start doing blending, just because if you're really harsh and really heavy with your hand, the more blotchy and less diffused your eyeshadow is gonna look. Notice how I hold my brush like almost like the end of the brush, just because it gives it a softer pressure versus holding it all the way up here and being so harsh with it and heavy-handed. So next I'm just gonna go in with that darker shade that I talked about right over here, and we're just gonna build that underneath where we applied this whole baby pink transition shade right over here. Again, just focusing most of the product on the outer corner and then just blending out the edges. And this time I'm not going as far in as I did with the transition shade. I'm keeping it a little tighter in this corner. And you want to tuck it into the lash line so that way you don't have a little gap. And that's what you should have so far. Alright, and that's all that we're going to be doing with the eyes for today. Like I said, just keeping it super natural. You could add a little bit of shimmer if you wanted on the lid right over here. Just add a little bit of shine, a little bit more dewiness to the look. But for right now, I'm okay with the whole matte. So now we're going to move on to the face. And then I'm actually just going to clean up right underneath my eyes just because I always end up getting eye primer stuck right in the inner corner and the outer corners of my eye. And once I go into my concealer, if I don't wipe this away, this will cake up on me and look really, really terrible. So I usually just take a makeup wipe and just clean underneath right over here. So for primer today, I'm actually going to be mixing two. I'm going to be mixing my #1 favorite primer, which is the First Aid Beauty Coconut Skin Smoothie Priming Moisturizer. I love this guy just because it has your moisturizer and your primer in one. And because I have like oily to combo skin, I'm usually oily in the T-zone. This actually keeps my oil at bay, just because it keeps my skin fed throughout the whole entire day with electrolytes. So love this primer. And then I'm also going to be mixing it with the new Smashbox Photo Finish 3 Radiance Primer, just because, again, tying back to the whole dewy skin look, these will pair really nicely together. This one has a little bit of a tint to it, so by mixing with like another lighter primer, it kind of takes away that darker tint for the fair people out there. Mix them together, and then go ahead and apply it. So just have a nice little subtle glow. There's definitely some like cheaper dupes out there. Like one of my favorites for drugstore dewy primer is the L'Oreal Magic Lumi primer. This one's really good. It has a white pearly finish to it, so it's really, really pretty. And then just to help smooth out some of those big pores of mine, my favorite new to me primer is the Makeup Forever, the Step 1 Skin Equalizer. Love this stuff. So I'm going to use this just around like my nose and my chin and a little bit on my forehead. Alright, and then for foundation today, I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow. I'm actually going to be mixing two just because the 202 is a little bit too dark for me and then the 201 is a little bit too pink for me. So I'm just going to go in and mix these two. So I normally just like to use like a nice little paddle brush to apply my foundation. I don't like to use my fingers for this, so I just like to sweep it right onto my face. This is probably like one of my favorite dewy drugstore foundations, just because it gives you like that nice summer perfect glow, nothing too oily. But it's a beautiful finish, full coverage. You can definitely build it up to full coverage, or if you need to sheer down, you can definitely do so. And then I just like to trace my brows just because I like to start with my brows first. And because it takes me an eternity, I don't feel like starting over, so I'm really gentle with them. So this is just the Wet n Wild brush. They don't have numbers or anything on them, but it's just like a nice like paddle brush. You can use this to apply foundation. I just like to use this to dot my foundation all over my face, but then to apply my foundation, I like to go in with the Morphe E6 or the new Gold collection, which is the Y6. These are my two top foundation brushes that I like. Super affordable and like really high-end quality for the bristles themselves. They're really good. So I'm just gonna blend that in and just drag it down to your neck. Really nice finish. I'm gonna set it with a powder just because I don't really like too much dew, and I'm gonna go in with a powder bronzer anyways. So Rule of thumb is basically you want to start with any kind of liquid products first and then move on to powders. You don't want to go back in with liquids after you've done your powders, just because it will be a hot mess for you and your foundation and everything else isn't going to look as smooth and as diffused as it does right now. So just keep in mind liquids before powders, and then don't go back into liquids once you've finished the powder. So going off of that, okay, I'm just gonna go with my concealer. This is the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I'm in the shade Fair. So I'm just gonna do a little bit on my chin, my forehead. You can definitely get like a concealer that's gonna be the same shade as your foundation. I just find that if you want more of that awakened iSZfu 72-hour look, then I like to go a shade lighter or 2 shades lighter depending. So that's why I'm in the shade Fair, and I just find it's a little odd looking when it's just really fair under here and not balanced out everywhere else. So this is why I do a little bit on my chin, the bridge of my nose, and my forehead, because these are all the highest points on your face, and this is usually where the light catches first. And once I do the underneath of my eyes, you'll see that everything else just kind of like ties in together and everything just looks more blended, and versus just doing concealer under here and then everywhere else being one color, it just looks like you have like raccoon eyes. So, but if that's what you want to do, then that's, you do you, but this is what I like to do. I'm just gonna spray some MAC Fix Plus just because I was lazy and I didn't feel like going to wet my beauty blender. So actually this is the Morphe Beauty Sponge, one of my favorite makeup sponges out there. So I just like to soak my beauty blend. It's not a beauty blender. The Morphe Beauty Sponge with the Fix Plus, and then just kind of like press it in just so that way it can kind of get bouncy. Typically any kind of sponges that you use to apply foundation or concealer, you want to wet this completely and just wring it out as much as you can. It'll just soak up less product for you. If it's dry, it just ends up soaking more product, versus when it's wet, it just kind of still absorbs some product, but not as much as it would when it's dry. So definitely wet your beauty blender or makeup sponge before you go in and apply that. So once that's all blended out, then I just go ahead and do underneath my eyes. I'm just gonna go in and blend this out. So what I normally like to do is I like to go in with one eye, blend one eye out, and then I like to immediately go in with a setting powder. So I'm just gonna go in my RCMA, and then I'm just gonna be using a Morphe M438 brush. It just looks like a little pencil tulip brush. So I don't know if you can tell, but you can definitely tell that it's definitely lighter than my foundation. So if you were to imagine without the concealer here on the bridge of the nose and on the forehead, you would just have this area that's super white and then everything else is super dark. So it would definitely look a little off. So that's why I just like to balance it out on the higher points of my face as well. So now that we're done with all the liquids, I'm not going to be going back into liquids. So now we can go ahead and set the whole entire face. So this time, I'm going to be using the new Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Filtered Light Setting Powder. This claims to be talc-free. So for example, this one does have talc in it. So it says it's a weightless makeup setting and baking powder with tiny light reflecting particles that blur the look of pores and fine lines. The only thing that I'm not a fan of this powder is that it does kind of leave like a yellow tint to your skin. So if you're on the fair side, I would try and find like maybe another like foundation powder to put over this to just kind of cancel out some of the darkness or the yellowness of this setting powder. But I definitely like the way that it looks. It definitely does blur out a little bit of my pores and fine lines. It also says sets and protect your makeup looks without flaking, creasing, or caking with a setting powder. It says vanilla tinted formula, but I would definitely say it's like more banana. And it is a matte finish that has no sort of shimmer in it to make it look dewy or anything. So I only tried it once so far, and I didn't hate it, but I don't know if you can tell. It definitely is pretty yellowy banana. I have this everywhere on my face just to set the whole foundation, because I don't really like, I like the fake dewy, I don't like real dewy. So this is the Morphe E2 brush, and it definitely smells like vanilla, so I'm not mad at that. You don't have to do this step. I'm just gonna apply foundation powder on top of my setting powder. You don't have to do this step, you can just go straight into like bronzing up your face. In case of you guys who do this step, I am using the Sephora Matte Perfection Powder Foundation, and I'm in the shade Warm Porcelain in number 6. And I'm just using a Morphe G7 brush. So now we can go into bronzing up the face. So my new favorite bronzer of all time right now is the new Becca Sunlit Bronzers, and this is the Capri Coast shade. What I love about this is that they have a really nice shade range, and they have an actual bronzer that's good for people who are on the fair side. So I know it looks a little dark on here, but I am very fair, and this shade looks really nice, and it does not pull orange or pull red on me. And they kind of have like a little bit of a sheen to them. I wouldn't say they're really shimmery, because when you do put them on your skin, I don't find that it gives you really any sheen. But you can kind of still see it somewhat in the pan, but definitely give this a try. So I'm just going to contour my cheekbones real quick. So I'm just using the NARS Ida Kabuki brush to do my contour. Typically with any like bronzing or contour, you basically want to focus right around like your cheekbone. What I normally like to do to measure out, I usually try and take like a brush and I lay the brush on the top of my ear, and then I try and connect it to the corner of my mouth. So right where like you have that little line drawn is normally where you want to focus like your bronzer or your contour. So I don't like to go too far down or too angled down, and I also don't like to go too straight across. You kind of want to follow like your natural shape of your cheekbone, and I don't like to do it too thick either. I kind of just do like maybe less than 2 finger width. And I always like to start with packing the product like almost into my hairline, just because if you do have too much product on your brush and you start it way over in the front, sometimes it can get like really blotchy and really dark in that area, so it's harder to cover up, and it's probably going to be the first thing that people see, versus applying it like almost into like the hairline right over here. If you do put too much over here in your hair, will not show, especially if you have your hair down. And I usually just like to tuck in my cheek. That's usually like where my hollow structure is, so that's usually the kind of guideline I like to follow. So I'm going to go in with the Physicians Formula. This is their Butter Bronzer in the shade Bronzer. I can't, there's no words. It smells so good for one. It literally smells like a tropical paradise. I love this stuff. This is the Morphe M523 brush, so I'm just going to dip the brush straight into the pan, knock off some excess, and then I'm basically going over top of the contour and maybe just a little bit more higher up, just to have that more diffused look. And then with a bigger, fluffier bronzing brush, this is the Morphe R7. I just like to dip into the same bronzer, and I'm just going to do my temples. And I'm also going to contour my nose just because it's so round. So I like to just use bronze up my cheeks, my temples, and then a little bit of my nose. You can definitely contour or bronze up like underneath your chin if you want to get rid of this guy right over here. So next, you don't have to do this step again, me just being extra. I like to go in with the NYX HD finishing powder. This is actually in the shade Banana. So, I mean, it doesn't like lighten up like extreme, but it does kind of clean up really nice, especially if you want to clean up your contour. I usually use this to clean up like my contour underneath, but you can definitely tell that it's definitely a little bit lighter than this eye right here with just a concealer. If you guys are looking for a powder that's going to help like lighten up underneath your eyes after you're done concealing, or if you want a powder that's going to set your concealer and still brighten, I would try the NYX HD powders in the shade Banana. And then same idea, I just want to keep it on the chin just to balance out all the light. Forehead, and then the bridge of the nose. And then to clean up underneath my contour, I'm actually going to be using this new sponge from Sephora. They collaborated with Veramona, and they made this cake and bake sponge. So it looks like this, and it kind of has like, I don't know geometry that well, so whatever this shape is. So I usually use like this flat angled side because it'll give you that nice sharp line. And I usually just like to dip this into my banana powder from NYX and just glide from my ear all the way down and just clean. I would normally recommend this step if you do contour or you feel like your bronzer went a little too low and you feel like you need to clean it up a little bit or just kind of erase it, think of this as kind of like your eraser. And then while that's kind of cooking, I'm gonna go in with my blush, and I am so happy that they came out with this. This is the Physicians Formula, their Butter Blush, and this is in the shade Vintage Rouge. I love this shade. It's kind of like a peachy, I think it's like a peachy pink. It's a really pretty blush, really pretty for the summer. I'm using the Morphe E4 angled brush. Probably one of my favorite brushes to apply blush with. And normally what I like to do for my blush is I kind of like to start halfway where my bronzer is, and I'm just gonna go right over top of that and then just kind of start dragging it down towards the apples of my cheeks right over here. Now we can go in with the same like tulip brush that I used, which I didn't even tell you the name of. This is the Morphe E48. This is what I use to just apply that banana powder from NYX underneath my eyes right over here. And then I'm just going to use the same brush to just kind of dust away the powder right over here. So that way you just don't see that harsh line anymore. But see how it just kind of cleaned it up right underneath here. You don't really see the bronzer anymore that surpassed my cheekbone. This looks really clean, really sharp, and that's what we want. So next I'm going to be finishing up the eyes, and I'm just going to go and do my bottom lashes, or my bottom lash line. And to start off, I'm going to use this Tarte Fake Awake eye pencil. This kind of has like that nude skin colored look to it. It's super, super creamy. And I like to, I've been using this nonstop ever since I got this one. I haven't been able to put it down. So it kind of cancels out some of the pink underneath your eye right here on the fleshy part of your waterline. So it kind of gives it that more refreshed look in the morning. It makes it, again, makes it look like you slept for 72 hours. Love this stuff. Alright, so now to finish off the bottom lash line, I'm going to go in with a Morphe M432 brush. So I'm just going to be dipping back into the Morphe 9N blush palette. And we're going to be mirroring the same idea as a top eyeshadow, but this time we're going to start with a darker shade and then finish off with a lighter shade. And then just set the brush right underneath the lashes. I like to stop it like pretty much halfway into my eye, because then I thought we're going to be going in with this brush right over here, which is the Morphe M507. So it looks like this. And I'm going to go in with this lightest shade right over here. I'm just going to stick it right underneath the darker shade that we just put on, just to have, again, that faded look. You want to have the same idea as we did for the tops. Alright, so next we can go into coating our lashes. And I'm going to be using just like a Tarte eyelash curler to just curl my lashes real quick. Alright, so for my favorite mascara as of right now is the Dior Show Blackout Mascara. Is with this. And I like to stick the wand right at the root of my lashes and then just wiggle my way up. And then for my bottom lashes, I'm going to go in with the MAC Extend Play Giga Black Lash Mascara. This is their waterproof one, and I love this mascara. I just love how thin the wand is and how short the bristles are, that it just sits perfectly right for underneath my lashes, and this is the only mascara that I found for my bottom lashes that will not flake off. And because I have oily skin, if any mascara flakes off on me, it'll just start painting underneath my skin right over here, and it's a disaster. And if you're clumsy like me and you accidentally get mascara right where you were just working on your eyeshadow, I just like to go back in with that same brush that we used, and if you need to add a little bit more product, just go back in with the same eyeshadow and just cover it right up, and usually it'll go away. So this step you can definitely skip. You don't need to do this step again. You can just leave it. But I'm just going to pop on some false lashes just because my looks are never complete without false lashes. But today I'm going to go in with some pretty natural. So these are the Kiss Look So Natural lashes. I actually really like these. They're pretty wispy, and I love how they're really long on the outer corner, really short on the inner corner. So I just use this Duo eyelash adhesive. This is the white one, but it dries clear. I just like to cover the lash band pretty light with glue, just because it's not a thick band, so you don't need a really heavy adhesive. And I usually, for thicker lash bands, I usually let them dry for like over a minute, maybe 2 minutes, while I'm waving my hand like this. But because this is a thin band and I didn't put a lot of lash glue, I'm not gonna let it sit this long to dry. When you wanna know when it's ready to pop on, the glue will be like pretty much clear or almost clear. That's when you know that it's at its tackiest, and it's just easier to pop it on versus having it super wet and super slippery like this, because as soon as you put it on your eyelid, it's just going to start slipping everywhere and it's just harder to control. And you want it as close as your lash line as possible. Super natural, nothing too crazy. Alright, and then for my favorite part, we're going to do some highlight. So this is new for me because I normally use the Marc Jacobs Spotlight Glow Stick to do my base for a highlighter. I like using cream highlighters and then going with the powder highlight. Now I've actually been using the Tarte Twinkle Stick, and this is in the shade Skylight. I'm actually really impressed with this guy. I've tried a lot of glow sticks or highlighting sticks, and every single time I would apply the stick directly to my cheek, it would always like rub off my foundation right over here and just kind of make it really blotchy. And ever since I've been trying this one, I have never had any problems with it wiping off my foundation. I would definitely give this guy a shot. Really nice, really pigmented, really melts like as soon as like you hit it with your skin. So it just looks like that nice, perfect, dewy, natural glow. So right here, like the highest arch of your cheekbone right over here, this is normally where I like to stick my highlight. So I'm just gonna go in with the stick and just pat it in. I just like to have that nice little curvature to follow like my natural structure of my cheekbone, but the more pigmented highlight, I want to keep it right over here and then just kind of fade it on this end and then start fading it down towards where the blush is. Now you can definitely keep it like this if you want, but if you don't know me, I like to really glow. So we're going to be adding a powder on top of this. So you can definitely keep the highlight just on your cheekbones, but again, because I'm going in and doing more of a dewy summer glow, I'm actually going to apply it on my temples. I'm also going to put some on my chin, the tip of my nose, and the bridge of my nose. And then for powder highlight, I'm actually going to try this guy because this has been highly recommended for drugstore eyeshadow. I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Eternal Color Intense Silky Shadow. Don't know. Oh, this is in the shade Pearl. So this has been really highly talked about for like a drugstore, really pigmented eyeshadow or pigment. So I'm going to try using this for a highlight today and see how that goes. I haven't seen anyone using this as a highlight, so I guess we'll see. So I'm going to use the Morphe Y14 for my highlight brush today. So I'm just going to dip the tip of my brush in, just swirl it in a little bit, and then I'm just going to apply it right where we added the stick highlighter, right over here. Oh, well, okay. Whew. That is pigmented. All right. Well, if you want a cheap blinding highlight, look no further. Go and pick up the L'Oreal Eternal Color Intense Silky Shadow in the shade Pearl, and I mean, damn. And then I'm just gonna go over top of my temples where we put that cream highlight as well, just for the extra dewiness. I'm just gonna spray a little bit of like Fix Plus back on my beauty sponge, and I'm just gonna damp it right over top of my powder highlight just so that it doesn't look so powdery and just looks more dewy and natural. Man, I was not expecting this to be that pigmented for a highlight. Alright, so next I'm just going to apply some lipstick. So I'm going to be using the MAC lipstick in the shade Really Me. I'm just going to apply that all over. I'm not going to use a lip liner, usually I do, but not today. Then to top that off, just because I want to stick with the whole dewy look, I'm going to go in with a gloss, and this is the Marc Jacobs Lip Lacquer in the shade Want Me. I think this is probably one of my favorite formulas for a gloss. Alright, and then to set everything in place, my two favorite combinations for setting sprays have been the Glam Glow Glow Starter and the Kate Somerville SPF 50 Uncomplicated SPF Soft Focus Makeup Setting Spray with a broad spectrum of SPF 50. I don't know if there's any other setting sprays on the market that have an SPF in them and is a setting spray in one. but this thing is literally genius. So Kate Somerville, shout out to you for inventing this amazingness. So first I just like to set my makeup with the Glow Starter from Glam Glow first. I just love how it's such like a fine mist, and it smells like cotton candy. It smells so good. But I just definitely feel like it kind of gives you like a fresh look. It doesn't look too oily, too dewy on you, but it just looks like a natural finish. Will also give you like a nice shiny dewy look to your skin as well. So alright, so this is the final look, you guys. I'm actually gonna go blow dry my hair, straighten my hair, and then throw on a little bit of jewelry, and then I'll be back with the final result. Alright, well I was gonna straighten my hair, but I kinda digging this little half wet, half curly and really fluffy thing going on over here. So if you guys enjoyed this nice summer dewy look, if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below for me, and let's take a read. But yeah, I'm glad to be back and doing some more videos, and hopefully there'll be more coming at you. So don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next one.